Hello, you divine human beings, and welcome to episode number, the atomic number of silicon, the number of golf clubs a golfer is allowed to carry in their bag, and of course the number of points between Man City and Man United this year on the Premier League table, and of course the number of Champions Leagues that Real Madrid have won. Episode number 14 of the Blacktown Football Hour podcast. My name is Mark DePoli. Thank you so much for having me as your host. Not that you have any choice or say in the matter. Remember, before the intro music is cued, before we go into any of the Volunteer of the Week stuff, remember, it is, of course, double demerits tonight. Cue the intro music. Happy long weekend. Thanks, Monarchy. Really do appreciate it. The Volunteer of the Week emerges from Newbury Bulls, and we have a little catch. It goes three ways this week. Allow me to quote. The reason for nominating these three above any of our other volunteer coaches is that these three are not connected to their teams at all. They volunteered as coaches when we put a call out that we would be rejecting registrations and disappointing kids, as we had no parents step up as coaches for these teams. Thankfully, Christian, Tamara and Ayan stepped up. Christian has an under-8s team, Tamara an under-11s, and Ayan an under-14s. All three players are also obviously players of Newbury. Tamara plays in our all-age ladies and our over-30s women's team. Ayan and Christian are in the under-17s team. Along with all our coaches, Christian, Tamara and Ayan give endless hours to their teams, and we couldn't run our teams without our volunteer coaches. So we say thank you to them all, but a big special thank you to our Volunteers of the Week for being heroes to their teams. Christian, Tamara, Ayan, from the BDSFA to you guys, thank you. Bit of a different episode this week, I'm not going to lie. Now, I was going to give you post-match podcast content from the promotion decider in the match of the round last night between Tigers and Oakville. The good thing is now I know never to upload a podcast on Friday once again, because it seems this day is cursed. I don't have the post-match reactions for you. I'm very sorry about that. I'll make it up to you. A reminder, when we get to 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube page, I will do a full sprint of the Blacktown Football Hour podcast pitch. It's not a podcasting pitch, it's a pitch. Anyway, I'll still do a full sprint of it. So, keep that close to your heart and remember to subscribe. If that's your initiative to do it, please do. Today I only have for you the Q&A section with Ron Smith. Now, to those who are unaware, I am indeed talking about the Football Australia Hall of Famer Ron Smith, the Australian Institute of Sport, Harry Kuehl and Mark Viduka producing Ron Smith, the 2IC to Hus Hiddink Ron Smith. Coaches, if you have any aspiration of improving yourself, I suggest strongly that you stick around and you watch this episode. This is very much the one for you. If you weren't there on Monday night, stick around. That's an uninterrupted 33-minute segment, so until we get to that point, let's go through some of the results this week. I'll tell some jokes, and that'll be it for the podcast. Congrats to all West Ham fans, by the way, another Italian team in the mud until the under-20s Italian national team beat Uruguay in the under-20 World Cup final. But until then, congratulations to West Ham fans. Association Youth League will start with the AYL. The 13s went down to the undefeated Southern Branch side 9-2. The 14s frustratingly lost 3-2. The 15s won 3-1. The 16s lost 2-1 before the 18s played against Macarthur FA on Monday night, tying a goal apiece. The girls played Manly on a fine afternoon of results down there. The girls played Manly on what was a fine afternoon and evening of results. The reserve grade won 3-1 and the first grade won 2-1. I am so happy with how that day went. The boys played Bankstown City where the 20s won 3-2, which was funny because Shahil went in goal. If you know, you know. The first grade won 3-1. Very happy days, loving life. In the Women's Premier League, Greystanes were held to a 1-1 draw by Marion. Holloway just about closely scraped past Quakers Hill Juniors 1-0. Norwest put Winston Hills to the sword 4-1. Castle Hill tied with Kellyville in the match of the round 2-2. Let's analyse that now. On 25 minutes, Kellyville would find the opener. It was an underhit goal kick that allowed Bianca Hogan to quickly snap onto the front foot and drive down the near left channel. The cross she put in was very well put in indeed, but then a bit of what I like to call a kerfuffle in the box, and it finds its way awkwardly into the back of the net. That was a bit of a shame. On 54 minutes, it was another long-distance free kick at Valentine Sports Park, hit from probably 35 to 40 yards out, but to be honest, it looks like the keeper lost it a little bit in the sunlight. In what should have been a moment that completely demoralised United, Kellyville from kick-off went and scored. Castle Hill too slow to react, a couple of chances to clear the ball and they didn't. 2-1, they went down straight away after scoring their own goal. Turns out they weren't demoralised at all. 3 goals in a crazy 4 minutes, 2 for Castle Hill United, and Claire Watt has her double. An identical free kick, this was the better of the two. Wonderful stuff. Deploy Premier League 1. Ponds 3-2 over Eastern Creek. Parkley got their first win of the season to heat up the relegation fight just a little bit more. 2-1 over River that was. Fwerkers 4-1 over Quakers. Doonside 2-1 in a close one over Ropes. Marion returned back to winning ways. 2-0. They also won 5-1 in the State Cup in midweek as well. Deploy Premier League 2. Oakville 6 unanswered past Spurs. St Pat's 3 unanswered past Mincho. Polonia 2 unanswered past Glenwood. And funnily enough, all 3 of those were considered as away wins. Interestingly enough, isn't it? Let's analyse that match of the round game. 1 goal in the first half, 1 goal in the second half for Polonia. Michael Cullen takes a past 3 and scores this beauty of an individual effort on 40 minutes. Unfortunately, those defenders just beaten far too simply and easily outside and inside the box. A devious shot at the near post, 1-0 it was to the captain. This was the pick of the bunch though, receiving it and without even thinking about it, on the turn, Padraja Alavanya just wallops it at goal, perfectly into the bottom corner past Bo Jenkins. Absolutely splendid, nothing that any defender could do. That is a wicked goal from right out of the top drawer. Last night in the match of the round, Oakville went down 4-2 at home to Quakers Hill Tigers. Unfortunately, no analysis of that game, just the way it is. I can promise you Tigers were the better of the two sides. I'm actually going to formally end the episode here. This is the part where you get to watch and learn from Ron Smith, so to our regular viewers who just live for Premier League stuff, I'll see you next week. Once again, a big thank you to all those who tune into the podcast, whether it's for the reasons to watch the interviews or you're from the Hills or Granville Association perhaps. Either way, just enjoy your long weekend. Sorry for the shortened episode. I wish I could have given you some post-matches from last night. It would have been great, but it's just the way the cookie crumbles, as I like to say so many times. Congratulations once again to Christian, to Tamara and to Ayan for winning a 3-way split volunteer of the week. And of course, we might have outro music just because that'll be awkward as we head into another segment. I just like to slide right into the Q&A. It's really fantastic stuff. Even if you aren't a coach, you could learn a lot from this, like how you sort of approach your own training sessions, I was trying to say. So you'll enjoy this. See you later, guys.
Attacking and defending. I know you said have them next to each other, but would you coach the attacking and the defending aspect of both?
No, I wouldn't. No,
Just attacking.
Not at the same time.
That's all right.
I do. If I'm going to work on defending, I'll work on defending. So one of the things that's important about learning is that you have the ability to keep recording what you're trying to learn. So if I say to you, so. From educational psychology, right, we know that when we learn things, you keep adding to what you know already. Okay, that's how people learn best. And so if I keep switching from different, right, I'm thinking about defending, then I'm thinking about attacking. Okay, I don't get that kind of recall. How many times have you met somebody and you say, "Oh, hello, Mary. Hello, Bill. Hello, Jane," and then, was it Mary or Marilyn? And that's normal, you see. So if I keep jumping from different things and I have more than 1 or 2 things to think about, there's a good chance I'll forget. Okay. So, if I say to the players early on when I'd only given them 1 thing to think about, they answered straight away. So I'll keep reinforcing that while I'm practicing. So what are we working on here? I'll say, and they'll go, "Get where I can see the ball in the defender." Okay. Keep saying that to yourself. So just as a brain, we know this. So if I keep asking you to record something, you do it a lot easier and a lot quicker. And it goes in your long-term memory. So later on, if I said, "Okay, what did we work on tonight?" I'm hoping they're going to go, "Get where I can see the ball in the defender." Because that's the only thing I really want them to keep doing. And practice it. And then if I don't do anything about it for a couple of weeks, they'll probably, whatever behaviour they were training, they will have forgotten. So I'll have to go and revisit. But the more I keep doing that, and repeating, okay, the greater the chance is they will start doing it. And that's why I say these are things that players have to train themselves to do. So whenever, like now, what I would be saying to them, if I was their regular coach, I'd be saying to a couple of them, particularly those in midfield. Tonight in the game, all I want you to keep saying to yourself is, where's my marker, where's the ball? And I'm going to watch it. I'm going to look to see if your head moves. Okay? And then they can practice this on their own. And it's like, when they've learned to do that, you might say, every time we play a game this week, I want you to keep thinking about getting levelling outside people. And then you'll learn when I can do it and when I can't, because the pass is too long, the defender's going to nick that. So I'll have to come back this way. And so, this is the way to communicate ideas to players. Okay, so in the end, it becomes a bit individualised. Okay, it's got nothing to do with like team tactics and shape and we're going to play 4-3-3 or 3-5-2 or that doesn't matter. So these behaviours, you do that in instant. I had to train players, okay, to go into professional football clubs anywhere in the world or in Australia. Right? So they had to be adaptable. So these behaviours are the foundation of becoming a good player. So then we said, well, if we play with a back four, if you're in a back four, or you're a midfield player, does it really matter if we've got a diamond in midfield or we've got a flat four? What are you going to do? I'm going to keep getting where I can see who's marking me in the ball. I get 11 outside, I keep the ball out of attacking range, I keep receiving the ball the inside of my feet rather than the outside, etc., etc. Because there are good reasons why you want to train them. And then the rest is, now you decide what you're going to do in the game. You go and play. Okay? So, you know, it's an approach to teaching people how to play football and then let them go and play. And then you see the good ones. And the ones that pick up all these things. The little lad, there's a little lad in here. I think he's got the makings of being a very good player. Okay, there's a couple of others out there as well. The lad who's a good dribbler up front. That's a great attribute. So it kind of saddens me when I hear people say to young guys, oh, don't dribble, get rid of it, you know, because you might lose it. Well, if you don't learn to dribble and lose it, you know, you might learn to dribble. That's part of the learning process. Everyone, but the good dribblers, they're worth their weight in gold. So, yeah. The other thing you might notice here, the longer the session's gone, when they start slowing down a bit, they play much better football. And that's a strange one, I don't know what it is, but because they've got a little bit more time to think and they don't do things in such a hurry, so it's quite good.
Anyone else got anything to ask?
Sorry, that was a long answer.
We talk about repetition and working through that. Is that just that session and then you move on, or you keep doing this week in, week out for a period of time and then moving it on? So that, like when we were talking about the defence attack, you do obviously always work defence first, then attack. But you keep that going for a month and then attack, or
Did you all hear that question? It was about how long would if I was going to work on something, how long would I keep doing it? And if I go from sort of working on defending for a bit, and then we go to look at the attacking side, and then come back again, how long would I stick with doing things? And the answer to that is, I don't know. It would depend on the performance. You know, so I don't believe in chopping and changing. I like to work on things because I know that it takes time for people to get the message and put it into practice. So if I keep changing, you ain't got that repetition that I think you need to be able to do things. Okay, so if I was working with these lads, I would keep the body shape thing. That would be the main focus for me for a few weeks. And while they're doing it, I would then be throwing in the idea of, if you can get level as well, because someone will pick it up real quick, but if you now start getting level so you can beat the defender with your first touch. Okay? So I'd throw that in as well, because it's very closely linked. You can't do that unless you can actually see. And it's an easy add-on. Okay? And then I'd be throwing in little things like, let's keep the ball out of tapping range, because that's an easy one. You can do it in, so like what we started off with here, Okay, once they get the idea of getting where they can see people, I'll do it in these practices. So they get more repetition. So in that little 4v2 where we're going to go that way, I'll be saying to the attackers, see if you can get level with the defender, rather than stand in here where the defender can come at you. Can you get level? So my first touch is we're down the other end in a heartbeat. Repetition. Smaller numbers, massive repetition, but you've got to have direction. Because if I don't know where I'm going, okay, I can't get level with the defender. So that's the benefit of having direction to just go from one end to the other, as opposed to just playing keyboard. So you think how many times, and I'll say this to people, I've probably made more mistakes than any coach in this country, because I've been coaching full-time for over 40 years. Okay? So if I haven't made more mistakes than anyone, I'll be gobsmacked. But about 10 years ago, I started to think, how can you put more elements of the game into practices? So then I sort of said, well, what happens in the game? Well, first of all, you have to keep running up and down, rather than going round and round. Okay? And when you lose it, you immediately become a defender. So build transition in the practice, because you want people to do that in the game, okay? And to be aware of it and do it. So that was the idea of having, understand the practice and then introduce the idea of 3v3 plus one floater. So the 3, as soon as you lose it, you're defending. As soon as you get it, come and go forwards. That's why it was in the game. Put it in your little practices. And so then the transfer into the game is going to be a lot higher. And with direction, you now have the opportunity to say, well, we know we're going that way. They know they're defending that end, so now I can get where I can see them. So you can build that, so you're giving the opportunity for people to practice every time they get into a little practice situation. When I say practice, I can practice getting where I can see who's marking me on the ball, getting level on the outside, first touch going forward. Because they're crucial bits in the game. Okay?
Good one there.
With your training that you showed us earlier, what would you do? What would you have done differently if you had a spectrum of players? Players who don't know how to kick the ball versus player who's really good, because that's what we get at the grassroots level, right? We get this spectrum of players.
All right. What would I do at the grassroots level? I wouldn't do any of that. Okay? Because you can't do that until somebody can actually take their eyes off the ball. So the reason young players are always looking at the ball is because they don't know what's going to happen. Okay? And so their whole focus is on the ball. So they keep looking at it, and then it's coming to them, and a lot will, and this is the danger of teaching kids to stop it first. They get into the habit, and then kicking it. Right? So you'd be better off saying, can you move the ball as it's coming to you and chase it? And if you kick it over there, can you chase it? And can you learn to change direction or stop it and then come back this way? That, manipulating the ball, is far more important than kicking it. Okay? So at home, you can do all sorts of things. Just learn to roll a ball around on your feet. Okay? Walk with it. Can I move this? Can I do that? That's far more important than kicking it. Okay? Because when you see Littman starting to play, what do? They just boot it and run after it. But slowly, with practice of doing things like that, okay, then you say, right, can you do all of this but not look at the ball? You go, how can I do that? Well, can you still see it? I used to say, can you see it out the bottom of your eyes? So if I look over there, can I see my feet? Yeah, I can do that. Okay, so see if you can do that without actually looking at the ball. Oh, now I can see someone over there. Whereas before I'm like this. So when they're learning to do this, you see, I still can't see Michael, and there's a pair of legs. And that's what happens with litters, they run into each other. So the first step is to be saying, can you actually look over there but still see the ball? So now, my eyes, then you hear the L saying, get your head up. True? So it's like rolling around in the ball. You can't rush it. No one's ever been able to find how to teach someone to walk earlier. Because it ain't possible. You walk when you're ready. So these sorts of things, and so how you receive the ball, you just have to, and that's just repetition. Playing in the garden, in the street, whatever, on your own. So if you're on your own, the manipulation stuff is really a good thing to do. And then playing with it, bounce it, can I kick the ball up, can I kick it twice? So you learn to keep balanced. And then you do a few more, and can I kick it up here and get it with my thigh? And then as the kids get better at doing things, they get motivated. And I've yet to see someone who's a good juggler of the ball who's got poor touch. And you can't teach touch. You can only develop it. Who plays golf here? Okay? Could you tell me how hard you're going to hit a putt? I say, could you tell me just how hard you're going to hit a putt when you're playing golf? But you can't describe it. No, that's what I mean. So that's what I mean by touch. You see, putting is, I should say putting, excuse my copy. Okay, but it's like, sometimes you get on a green, you've got an uphill putt, and you think, oh, I'm going to have to give this a little bit, or it's going to come, I'll only get halfway up the hill. Or the other one is, it's going downhill, and it's lightning quick, and you're almost afraid to breathe on it, because you know it's going to go 10 feet with just the tiniest little tap. Well, that's no different than playing football. So when a ball comes to you, it's like, now the other thing is, see, I did something then that's just a natural habit. See how many times the boys tonight rapping? Okay, do I look comfortable? It's a nightmare. You can't have a good touch when you've got your foot halfway around your chest. Okay? Unless you're a ballet dancer or something. They're not ballet dancers, are they? So you've got to learn to actually get the ball and let it come to you. Remember what I said about stretching? Bad touch, lose it, you can't move, can't change direction. Okay, so you've got to learn to move your feet. And then when the balls come in, if I want to take the ball out of the air, that's all I need. And just go. And even if it bounces and goes that way, I can make it look like a good touch because I can run after it straight away. And it looks like it's always close to me. But if I'm doing this, right, and I don't have to do that because it's going to come down whether I like it or not. What I've got to do is get to where it's going to bounce. And if I see someone, I just go, boof, that's my first touch, keep it out of tackling range, and away we go again. See, in theory, it's easy. The hard bit is getting people to do it. And also the focus, because the temptation is that once you get into the game, the thinking goes, now I'm going to score, I want to get a touch. Okay? So, if you train the habits, they can still do that, but they'll do it in a different way. Okay? But technique is something that you have to keep working on all the time. Okay? I've been saying to a lot of coaches recently, there's only two things you can do in the game. You can kick it or run with it. That's it, end of story. And it's true. They're the only two things you can do. Kick it or run with it. The question is where? Where do you run with it and where do you kick it? Or where do you pass it? Okay? And the other bit is, you have to be simple. So when you look at that, you go, okay, and all we're trying to do is, when we get it, we're going up there to try and score. It's an easy game, really, to understand people. I read some things, it sounds like rocket science. So, try and keep it simple.
That's right.
Easy to understand.
Does anyone have
any questions?
No one?
So you mentioned two things that I was interested in. The first thing was when you coached the local kids, your neighbours.
Oh yeah.
How do you relate all of the education back down to that level, which I thought you did very well tonight. And the other thing was the 90 minutes a player may spend on the park, well not 90 minutes, but 90% of the game without seeing the ball, and how to keep them engaged in that 90% of the game.
What I meant by that was the 90% you don't have possession, right? So you're engaged in the game because you trying to get in positions where you can receive it and go forwards and get the score goals and all that. But all the research evidence says that, I mean, like, I've done this. I've looked at players in the Premier League. They might touch the ball 25 times in the whole game. And you think, wow, that's why playing games is not a good way to get repetition. But you have to play the game because that's the game, isn't it? So we break things into smaller little units of practice, so you get the opportunity to get a lot more touches and practice positioning. Then you go in the game, okay? But that's what I'm saying. The most important thing is what you do when you haven't got the ball, because that sets you up to be effective. Or I can play like this and get caught in possession a lot, and so on. So training people to understand what they need to do to become better players, okay, is what they do off the ball. There's no substitution for technique. Your passing and receiving are really, really important, okay, but you don't get many opportunities to do that in a game. That's why we play small-sided games and all that stuff, to try and give people the opportunity to get as much repetition as possible. But the best bit is, when you're not at training, is to get your own practice, where it's against the wall, juggling it, bouncing it. When I was at the AIS, if I ever wanted to find Mark Viduka, the first thing I did, our office used to be above the indoor hall. Right? I used to look through the window over to the corner. Because if Viduka was free, that's where he'd be. And he used to be in the corner with a ball, he'd kick it onto that wall, it'd come back, he'd volley it onto that one, volley it onto that one, volley it onto that one. He'd be there for hours doing things like that. Kick it hard, get it up, control it on the chest, volley it on the ball. He had like 2 mates there. Repetition. There's no substitute for developing technique. So to come back to, you know, what do you do when you haven't got the ball? I don't think there's enough focus on that to help players. So, okay.
Thank you, Sean. Anyone else, guys? At the end?
Yeah. Technique first. So learn how to manipulate the ball, change direction, run with it, and slowly start doing that without having to look at it. And the way to do that is, and I've done this a lot with young players, is to get them to run with the ball, and every now and again say, look at me. So if they're running about and you say, look at me, and then, oh, hang on a minute, where's the ball gone? Okay, so gradually you get used to going, look at me, so I'm still in control of the ball. If I blow the whistle, can you stop it? If I say change, can you change direction? Look at me. So they get used to this and gradually get them to do it without looking at the ball. So they focus in here. Because when you're dribbling, if I come towards the defender where that board is on the fence, okay, I'm not looking at the ball, I'm looking at the defender. So if the hips are going that way, I might move here and then drag it across the hips. So my attention and focus is not on the ball, it's beyond. And then I see a player here, so I might go and I'll play a 1-2 because I can see it. Okay? But in the early stages, my head will be here. Now I can't even see the ball. I can't see my play off. I'll probably run into something. So when you see kids do this is what we used to say, try and beat legs. Right? So when you see legs, run away from them. So when they're running like this, what is it called legs? They're going to change direction. And then you have to slowly get your head up. That's all. Crawling to walking. Everyone goes through it. Okay?
Very good.
Anyone?
Anyone else?
No.
I might finish it off with one question, please, Ryan.
Yes.
The importance of intervention in the training session, getting the message across really quickly. How long does it take you to get that across in a normal training session when you're not demonstrating to a friend?
I'll do it to establish what I want so they understand what they've got to try and do. So the first time I might do it, I might watch a training session, practice, and then say, okay, I've seen this happen 4 or 5 times in the last 5-6 minutes. And then I'll wait for it to happen again, and that's when I might go, right, just stop there. And then I'll say to the players, this has happened 4 or 5 times in the last 5 minutes. I'm going to show you what it is, so you recognise the situation and what I want you to do. And so I'll show them then, because you learn much better from seeing something. You know the old saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and it's true. So paint the picture and show somebody what you want it to do and why. I've always been a big believer that if I just say, oh, I'll do this, you might do it, and I think, I wonder why I'm doing that, I wonder why he said. So if there's a really good reason, you need to convince people. Okay? It's like saying, when you cross the road, it's great if you keep your eyes open. You don't want to hear this. That's why you want me to keep your eyes open, so I don't get hit by a truck. Yes, exactly. Okay, I'll do that, it makes sense. So it's no different. So if you stop something like this, and say, look, I want you to get there so you can see it, so that there's no surprises. You can't surprise me now, Mike, you see, because I know where you are. And you also know that I can see you. So you're not going to come rushing at me. Okay, if I get a ball, and I already know, so my first touch might be so I can level up with you. That's not close now. There's a behaviour. When you get people to receive the ball, okay, that's not Mike's the defender. Now, if I get a ball like this, almost without it, he will start to close in, because he knows it's very hard to go that way. So where am I going to go? You can go in there or back here. So when defenders are like that, they close in on people. They don't think like that, but they do it because it's already kind of pattern recognition. I've been there 1,000 times, and you respond like that. But if I get a ball played to me and I do this, now Mike doesn't know where I'm going to go, because I can go this way. So when you've got the ball, if you can keep it between your feet, a lot more than on the outside. So if I've got the ball here, Mike comes to approach me, I can't go that way. It's physically impossible. And so you can't read that, and you threaten people and they go, and then the defender goes and wins it. But if I keep the ball between the feet and I keep sort of square onto Mike, he can't come too close. Because I can play left or right, and I can go in that way and I can go this way, and I'm the one who says go. So if he gets that close to him and I just go, woof, I've done him. And he will know it, because it's happened before. And it's like, something comes around the light. You're driving it and you see it go out and you think, can I get over? Can I get past it? Or, better put the brakes on. It's a bit like that. I think there's a great analogy between driving a car and playing football. Because we're conditioned by signals. It's no different in the game. Do you know what the signals are? Do you know where the giveaway sign is on the pitch? Okay, what's the stop sign? When's the red light? Oh, you've got to be really careful here. I'll give you an example. So when players on the ball have got time to get their head up, okay, defenders, you've got to protect the space behind. So if I'm near someone, I'll say to defenders, right, if you see anyone on the ball and they've got time to play, you immediately give yourself 2 yards start. And if he starts running, you keep running. So the guy on the ball now is going to go, can't pass that, because the defender's going to win it. So you deter the pass. There's a red light. Etc. So there's lots of them. So you build knowledge. You teach in bits, and you gradually get a little bit more knowledgeable about how to play football, what the signals are, and I put it into practice. It's a long process. You know, but if you keep things easy to understand, and if you think tonight, everything I asked them to do, I described a behaviour. Do this. What have I asked you to do? Can you get your body in a position where you can see this or that? It was what I call action language. Can you get levelling outside somebody? Okay? I didn't say, oh, can you find a space? Yeah, there's a lot of space. There's plenty over there. You see how easy it is? You see, so it's the language that you use that can actually keep it easy to understand. If you say, oh, come on, we've got to hurt them. What does that mean? You're going to kick somebody? Or do I want you to try and play the ball in behind me and get a shot at? Ah, now I know what you're talking about. Oh, you want me to try and play the ball behind. So when you see someone, these are all things. Again, training. So I look for cues. So if I see someone in the middle of the park and he's got his head up, first thing I should look for, can I get him behind when I'm going to be able to score? My simple message to all the players at the BFH used to be, when you get the ball, what's the first thing you should look for? What do you think? When you get the ball, what's the first thing you should look to do? Sorry? Move it. Okay, but what should I... Can you give me something a bit...
Move it into spots. Away from it.
Well, my tip used to be to the boys, can you give it to someone who can score? I might be in space. I might be nobody within 25 yards of me. Okay? So, if I'm under pressure, I probably won't be able to pass it to someone who can score. So, I'm going to move it out of the way. Can I pass it to someone who can score? Yes, I can. Oh, in you go. And if you can't give it to someone who can score, can you give it to someone who can actually pass forwards? Ah, that means someone around. You learn that with a bit of practice. So when I get on the ball now, see the big lad over there who's playing right centre back tonight, he got the message because I watched him throughout the practice. When he got the ball, he tried very hard not to pass it to someone in front of him. After I showed them, he was smart. He could see me saying to the midfield players, get where you can see the defender on the ball, then you won't be in front of it. Because that's the hardest position on the pitch. And I said to him once, your job is to give it to someone who can go forwards. That registered straight away. Because from then on, he kept trying to pass to people who could go forwards with the ball. I thought, there's a smart lad. Okay? So again, you educate. Give them time to practice.
Good, we've got one smart lad.
No, I'll tell you, there's some talented kids on there. How do you get to the next level? That's the challenge. It's understanding the difference between really good play and average play, and the percentages. And I gave one example here to the little lad I was impressed with him tonight, okay? And I said, sometimes you get the ball played to when you don't really want it, okay? Because you can't control where someone's going to pass the ball. And you ain't had time to get your body out of the way and you get it, okay? So I said to him, just take it to the touchline and protect it with your body. So even if I get the ball and I don't even know where people are, so there's my first touch and I protect it. So I keep my body in the way before I can look. And the other thing is, so later on you can say, when you're getting like that and you move it, because you can't feel anybody here, there's a good chance there's no one there. But if there is someone, then you learn to make the arm go really like a branch on a tree. Someone doesn't just put my whole leg that way. Then if I've got them, I go up and turn around. Again, someone feeling to see someone here. And you get the really tight and you roll on. They're all bits. It's like an jigsaw puzzle. You say, oh God, I've got to put that bit in here and that bit in there. It takes time. Okay? So we have to be patient.